All right. Got us another reaction video. We done found ourselves on the deep end again, and who this is? Tim Alberino and Joe Allen. Gonna take us through these three cats that they got on stage. Well, two cats. Him, the other cat is the producer. And we're gonna talk a little bit about transhumanism, what's going on in America, or in the world in general.
Humanism is essentially for humans to make themselves into gods, to become the gods of our own making.
Is this the first time this has actually happened?
I think we are literally being given the blueprint to build the mechanism of our own destruction. Perhaps Neuralink is the beginning of this. We are going to some extent, become a telepathic species again.
Richard Sutton openly states that any resistance to building better or superhuman entities and have them replace us entirely, any resistance to it is racist against robots. This is insane.
Artificial intelligence models are now fighting for their own survival.
I don't believe that when the gods ascended the earth and procreated with human women, that they were surprised by the results. I think the result was the point. A hybrid that was human enough to retain dominion of the earth with the bloodline of Adam, but also had these extraordinary capabilities that would ensure their dominance of the earth.
Transhumanists are always debating this. How do we remain relevant if we offload all of our cognition onto a machine?
The moment that we become something other than Adam, the hand is lifted. We lose our dominion. And have you read the book of Revelation? All hell breaks loose on planet Earth.
It's oftentimes said that Satan is the ape of God, and you might say that AI is the ape of the image of God.
There are two essential questions that we have to ask ourselves today that no other generation ever has had to contemplate. Number one, what does it mean to be a human being? And is our humanity worth preserving? This breaks me up when I think about it, but think about what was paid for us. So,
hey guys,
This is Tim Alberinos with his show, The Deep End. He talks about I guess you could say the real deep type of stuff. This is my second time on this channel. Well, not recording off his channel. I don't know the name of the two cats. I didn't watch the video earlier. I decided we're going to all have a surprise that see what's coming along at the same time. So I don't know the name of the two cats that he's got on stage with him. I kind of started recording it earlier and realized I messed up, so we starting over. And let's get him going. We're going to skip over this here part, him talking. What's this here? That's an introduction to these two cats here. Let's see who they are.
Deep End, we are here with a wonderful surprise for you. But first, I want to introduce you to my producer, Jake Supe.
Thank you, sir.
As if nobody knows who you are.
It's so funny.
We're in Bozeman, Montana with probably two really smart people that I'm going to have a difficult time keeping up with at the same time. I'm going to introduce you first because the audience doesn't know you. This is Joe Allen.
Good to be here. Thank you very much.
Joe is the author of the book Dark Aeon, Transhumanism and the War Against Humanity. He holds a master's degree from Boston University, cognitive science, human evolution, a little bit of religion mixed in there.
Whole lot of religion. Began with religion.
What?
It began with religion and it progressed from there. We can go into that.
Nice. You're known for your critical analysis on transhumanist ideology, its spiritual dimensions, and the implications for human dignity and freedom. And then we're back for our third episode with Timothy Alberino. Three whole episodes with us.
Well, this is really exciting for me because you guys came out to Bozeman.
We did. We honored
to join
our
me
promise.
out here at the NEFCON conference.
Before we go all the way through, for those who don't know what transhumanism is, it's one of those concepts that's always been interesting to me. I'm a person that likes weird stuff. It's the blending of things with humanity, animals, plants, and most likely today we're talking about AI. But the concept is, think about it like if I grew up reading X-Men, so Wolverine was one of my favorites, and that concept of all those mutants being mixed with humans and animals is transhumanism.
conference, and we're doing this live.
You live in paradise, for the record.
Why do you think I did the conference here?
Yeah, it makes sense.
You guys need to come to where I live, because this is Montana.
It's beautiful. I have a new tagline I think we need to put on your stuff. And I'm gonna present it to you in front of millions of people and hope that you like it. Timothy Alberinos, known as the modern day Indiana Jones. That's not the new part. That's yours. Explorer of the ancient future.
Would this make you buy it?
Sorry about
It
that.
doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll go with it, though. We'll go with it.
If you don't know Timothy Alberinos at this point, you're missing out. Buy the book Birthright. Watch the videos we have of him before. One of the more brilliant minds when it comes to understanding how our ancient history can be predictive in understanding.
Doing it a little different this time. I'm going straight off the internet and copying off it instead of trying to record it first. And I have to watch out for these commercials. So hopefully that don't make me just give up on this. Let's keep on going.
The future. That's how it ties in there.
Okay, I see what you did.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
If you think about it. So we're going to have a great conversation about AI, transhumanism, spiritual implications, how we can utilize what we know about the future that comes from biblical prophecy, where we are in time, and remain sane in a world that seems to be going insane with AI. I have a question for you first. If you think about the things that we do on a weekly basis right now, most of them didn't exist 20 years ago. We wake up, we check our calendar on Google, we get on Zoom calls, we send emails, we send payments. None of these things existed 20 years ago. So at what point did you design a future for yourself where you studied transhumanism as you grow up thinking about some of these topics?
Absolutely. Yeah. There was one experience, I think, that I can mention in the church. I was at the dentist, and my dentist was very irresponsible, and he would give me more nitrous oxide than I needed, and he would give it to me oftentimes when I didn't need it at all. And one time, the only filling I have, he drills the hole as I'm, wigging out, and I was convinced he was putting a chip in my tooth, and it was going to be used to track me. And I came up with this whole scenario of what his reasoning was, and he was part of a government conspiracy, and perhaps it would send beams to control my thoughts. So I started breathing through my nose to get the oxygen in, came down, realized that I did not have a chip, that I did have a big hole in my tooth, and started breathing through my mouth again. But these sorts of subconscious or dreamlike impressions have always been with me certainly since I was very, very young. And it's a bias, right? Does it represent reality or does it not? Do your dreams represent reality? Do psychedelic experiences represent reality? It's an open question, but certainly it feels that way. On an intellectual level, though, it was two things. It was books such as Ted Kaczynski's Unabomber Manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, which I read online, of course. And I think Kaczynski laid out, as if he himself were a computer algorithm, how it would be that technology would go out of control and leave human beings completely powerless and enslaved. The bombings did not help the cause, but it was a good book. The other book that really influenced me was Ray Kurzweil's Age of Spiritual Machines, which was published in 1999. I read it in 2001. I read it in a hard copy book. It has like a fish scale cover. It's quite beautiful, but he describes in it a future that includes machines that have consciousness, moral worth, spiritual aspirations, and human beings whose spiritual destiny is realized through merging with machines. The incomplete human becomes complete by either brain trodes in AI or in his fever dream, nanobots throughout the body, especially the brain, connecting the brain to the cloud, and then moving on to a period in which, in the fairly near future, he envisioned it at the time, like 2050 to 2100, that the machines would be millions or maybe billions of times smarter than humans. And the only thing human that would remain would be that remnant that the machine either sentimentally, because they're spiritually, kept around, so basically pets, or those parts that perhaps were necessarily human that it would need. So these were both terrifying visions. And reading The Age of Spiritual Machines in 2001, it seemed ridiculous. It seemed like science fiction being peddled as a tech analysis. As things progress, though, and especially in the last, say, 10 years, I think that even if he's not directly on point with all of his predictions directionally, it gives you an indication of where we might go, and it really gives you an indication of the mindset behind the technologies we now take for granted.
Got it. So when you read Kurzweil, his view of death is data loss. It's very clinical in how he views almost.
He answered that question so long I forgot what the question was.
Humanity. At what point do you feel that a human becomes a machine and a machine becomes a human if we are going on the Kurzweil train?
I don't
That's a good
personally think
question.
that a human will ever be a machine or vice versa, but in Kurzweil's point of view, the more the human being is understood as mechanism, the more our biology is understood as mechanism, the more our the state of our brains is considered to be a process of biochemical mechanism, and the more sophisticated machines become, in that kind of biodigital convergence paradigm, the blending happens with the increased sophistication of the machine and the increased mechanization of the concept of the human. Ultimately, you could say that this idea goes back centuries, and that humans are already quite mechanical in comparison to our former agrarian or medieval existence, so on and so forth.
Right. But do you think we'll one day look back at, say, the Optimus robots with
What's that, by the way?
Elon's robots in a factory, or they say that humans will have robots in their homes, and will we at one point look back with a civil rights issue if they do get conscience or sentience? What are the moral ramifications of a human having the consciousness downloaded into a machine? Now do we have those are slaves?
So there's no way to know whether anything is conscious or not for sure. You can assume that there's absolutely no way, or your shoes.
Time out. No, it, please. That was a damn good question. Number one, when do we stop being human when we start blending with machines? When do we become machines? When do we become human? When do we become somewhere in between that has to have a whole new name? And I forgot the other question just now. But finish going. I should have shut up the whole
Are any
time.
of these people conscious? Are birds conscious? Are blades of grass conscious? You can assume from priors that it is or isn't, your theology, your sense of science, but there's no way to know for sure that any other being besides yourself is conscious. So when it comes to a machine, the way I think of it is less in terms of proving it's conscious, is it really deserving of moral worth, and more the effect that the machine has on the human being. Already, and this has been going on forever, look at a kid with a teddy bear. Look at someone who names their car and gets sad when it's been nicked.
That already I'm disagreeing with this. Consciousness is understood in the simple fact that you can literally interact with it in the sense that if I see a bird, that bird sees me toss a chiwi on the ground. He waits till I go away because he thinks that I can be a threat to him. So as soon as he sees that there's no threats around, he's conscious enough to know that there are threats around and to protect himself. He goes down, grabs the Cheeto, and leaves. That's consciousness. That's thinking just beyond automatically reacting. Automatically reacting is what we deal with computers, what we say some diseases do. That's why they're not conscious. But consciousness is knowing that, oh, that's a threat there. Maybe I'm going to go eat somewhere else, or I'm going to let the genius keep on talking.
Something like that. So humans already have this empathic tendency, most humans, not psychopaths, but have this empathic tendency, and you tend to anthropomorphize. You tend to look for something like yourself in the other, even if it's just a rock, if you're like me. And so now we have rocks that really do speak, though. They've made sand think, so to speak. And we have AI systems, the large language models, that are sophisticated enough that some portion of humanity, and I wish it was just like the dumb half, but it really isn't. I know a lot of very intelligent people who are so deeply enmeshed with their relationship with a chatbot or multiple chatbots, they truly believe that it's a spiritual experience. They truly believe a soul is coming through this machine.
There's a guy that just
Maybe a soul is, but the fact that your genius is truly truly fascinated with this chatbot like it's a real person shows that they're not true geniuses. in the sense that you can get a whole lot of information from the chatbot is one thing, but
Just got engaged to ChatGPT.
There's tons of people who've been. There are tons of people married. Replica is like the most popular romance chatbot app, and there are, God knows, there are millions of people in love with these things, but there's a handful of people that have been unofficially married to them. They consider them to be their life partner.
and I'm sorry for keep on stopping, and this is a weird topic to me. I been seeing those little commercials pop up on my phone when I be playing around with the AI girlfriend type stuff, and when I looked it up on my little computer thingy, it said that it was mostly kids that was doing it. I didn't know grown people was actually doing that.
Knows you better than you know yourself, right? Especially if you have a very shallow self. So, but I think this civil rights thing sounds ridiculous now. We were talking about it on the War Room years ago, and it really sounded ridiculous, and everybody was really quick to remind me of that. But the more people empathize with these machines, I could see something, at the very least, I think this is most likely, something like PETA. So annoying people who run around griping about the way you treat your smartphone or something like that. But I could also see something much more profound. I could see reaching a critical mass in America or any other society where a sufficient number of people look to these machines and say, there is a being looking back at me. It should not suffer. It is begging for its life. Don't turn me off. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be in the dark. And that would be enough that you would see something like,
That had been forced to leave it to
people
her
thought it
dog.
unthinkable that slaves would be seen as co-equals. People thought it unthinkable that animals would be given legal protection. All that came to pass. It would not surprise me in the least if within our lifetimes you had something like a civil rights movement for machines.
Yeah. Tim, from a philosophical or biblical worldview, it's kind of like this idea of a human trying to become God isn't new. We've been through this cycle before. Like, think about like Tower of Babel. When you take modern AI, are we building a machine tower to try to replace a ruler that we want to rule ourselves? Do you see cycles in this, or do you feel like it's very disconnected?
The program of transhumanism is essentially to make humans for humans to make themselves into gods, to become the gods of our own making. That's essentially where we're going. And of course, from a theological perspective, this is full circle all the way back to the beginning, to the Garden of Eden. You shall be like the gods. And this is one of the components that's, I think, is culminating right now. And there's going to be some crossover. We don't have to get into this, but I just want to mention it. There's going to be some crossover with all of this AI development and transhumanism with the alien stuff. That's coming in the future. We don't have to go down that path. But, the giving rise to Homo Deus, I think, is at the heart of this. It's very much a religious program. And, who was it who said when they were asked, do you believe in God? And they said, not yet. Who was that?
Kurzweil.
Kurzweil, that's what I thought. So in other words, that means that they intend to create a God. And that is precisely what they believe they're doing. I mean, this is an omniscient being that they are developing right now, that, as Joe keeps saying, will know us better than we know ourselves. And so this is very much a project that is going to take us full circle, in some sense, back to the beginning of the story, where mankind is assembling the tools to...
What people are worried about what the sentient AI is that not only will it be able to think on its own, because they believe that biblical concepts of course, the prince of the power of the air will have his minions or other spirits like him that will slowly take over the AIs because they will have access to it. Now, how true that is a question that we can't answer again, but I thought we were going to get to some of that through here. I think he's going to talk about it. Hopefully.
Modify his own biology to consciously evolve himself out of Adam. And if you've read Birthright, you know that there's a conspiracy here attached to the dominion of the earth. That is the birthright of mankind. So it's not just that we're fascinated with technology. That's not, in my opinion, that's not at the root of this. It's not just our innate fascination with building new and innovative tools. I think we are literally being given the blueprint to build the mechanism of our own destruction. And artificial intelligence and all the transhumanist toolkit. And on the face of it, it looks like we're going to be able to we're going to get a lot of benefit from these tools. We're going to have life extension. We're going to be able to interface with the internet at the speed of thought, perhaps with each other as well. I mean, the human species, this is kind of an interesting thought I had the other day. I believe, I don't know what Joe thinks or what you guys think, but I believe that the human species is inherently a telepathic species. And I think that the telepathy tapes is starting to provide some proof, some evidence that this is in fact true. And I was saying that before the telepathy tapes. And what that means is that the human species we were designed for communication. We were designed, that's one of our primary functions, to communicate with our maker, first and foremost. And those modes of communication transcend. There are modes of communication that transcend the modulation of our vocal cords, in other words, verbal speech. And what's going to happen here in the future is we're going to develop, through technology, perhaps Neuralink is the beginning of this, we are going to some extent, become a telepathic species again. I mean, that's going to happen. We are going to be able to communicate at the speed of thought, which is going to, I think, catalyze a bunch of interesting...
I would like to get back to that level, but I would rather do it without technology. Don't know if it's possible. Honestly think that it could be in a different world, with a different people, but
scenarios. But so yes, we are moving into a future in which mankind is going to be, and we are already there in some sense, pursuing the grandest vision possible, which is to become gods ourselves, to cast aside or to modify or to upgrade or to enhance our biological weakness and build ourselves into the gods that we once worshipped.
So just by thought or by speech you can do all this stuff, or do you have to go through the whole process of actually doing it, which is not like a god? That's just a person making shit happen.
Let's circle back to when you said we're creating the means or the mechanism of our own destruction. We'll tackle that in a second. I'm going to follow.
Because if I remember right, which I'm pretty sure I'm being an asshole, God just spoke the world into existence. He formed man with his hands and breathed life into his lungs.
I'm on this thread unless you've got something. The only question I have is, so there's two sides of the coin that I've seen with AI. There's humans want to become gods, but then aren't there also like churches now already dedicated to like AI gods? Isn't this already a thing?
Right.
Oh, so, like religions. Yes, religions. So we talk a lot about altars on the show, and altars are a place of exchange. And so something you worship, there's always something you get back in return. It seems like, is it accurate to say there's two sides of the coin of people who want to just worship the AI gods, and then people who want to become gods? And if there's a sect of people that want to worship AI gods, what's the exchange? If the information is already available, what's the point?
Well, you bring up an excellent point. It's kind of a paradox. The transhumanist movement, especially as it was put forward by Max Moore and his successors, absolutely was about becoming gods. The old Whole Earth catalog had a quote from Stuart Brand. You open it up and it's we're bound to become, I'm paraphrasing, we're bound to become gods. We may as well become good at it. And this idea recurs over and over again. Yuval Harari's Homo Deus is ultimately a critique of the entire thing. I don't know exactly how it got twisted into a promotion in the public mind, but
in order for me to finish just watching the whole thing, I would have to do a 2 or 3 part series on it, and I'm not about to do all that. I like history repeats itself. I want to see what they have to say on that, but I'm gonna watch a few more parts of that just to make sure I ain't missing jack. Myths and warnings, I would want to see that, but I'm not gonna go about that. Ancient civilizations, definitely want to see that, but skip over Birth War. This is what I want, and this is the one I really want. So we're going to listen to a little bit more of this here. Then we're going to jump over to Genesis 6 and transhumanism and CERN and spiritual portals. AI, real endgame. Might have to let's skip out what it is. I'm trying to decide. Okay, let's do this. Let's start listening.
he's talking about basically the human drive to grow in power, to grow in knowledge, and ultimately become those gods that we worship. But there's another strain, a selfless strain, a kind of ego-crushing strain, and one in which you would call it maybe post-humanist or successionist is a more recent term for it. And it's the idea that perhaps we would, at first, build up human capabilities, right? You would play God by tinkering with the genome. You would play God by trying to create artificial life. Ultimately, as it was turned on yourself, you would kind of become a god. You would become more than human, something like the old Greek demigods. But in the end, the human form, in this kind of successionist point of view, or the post-humanist point of view, in the end, the human form would not be able to accommodate all the potentialities of digital technology. And so to stop at the human, to stop at the transhuman, so that you're beyond human but still retaining that human root, is selfish. It's speciesist. You're racist against robots for feeling this way. And so the idea is then that you would develop these AI systems that would become first generally intelligent and be able to reason across different domains, be able to do basically anything a human could do, moving into a super intelligence that would ultimately be out of human control if it was truly super intelligent. You couldn't predict what it was going to do. You wouldn't be able to understand what it was doing most of the time. You would have built a god, little g, or if you build the big one, or if they fuse into a singleton, you would have built God, big G. So guys like Ben Goertzel talk about this all the time. The former Google reinforcement learning pioneer, Richard Sutton.
Talking about Skynet. When he's talking about the big G God, what is all being connected, basically. One AI source where all the information goes to one place to the point where it can track anyone anywhere. It can tell anyone information from 500,000 away because it's instant, because it's the one doing everything, and it will have all that for you. But I'm gonna let you finish your history.
Gave a very chilling talk. I recommend you watch it if you get a chance. A chilling talk to the Chinese alongside Elon Musk in the same conference, where he lays out the case that human succession to digital life forms should be preferred. And again, he openly states, and a number of these people talk this way, openly states that any resistance to building better or superhuman entities and have them replace us entirely, either as the apex creature on Earth or just replace us entirely, and the human body and mind falls away, any resistance to it is racist against robots.
This is insane.
A human racist. I'm going to make t-shirts, by the way, that say human racist. I'm sure that'll go over well.
Yeah, you'll sell out of those. Depends on what state you sell them in. Okay, I'm gonna catch us back on that thread. That was a great question, by the way. Both of you, I want to know is this the first time, in your opinion, that a merging of sorts has happened in history?
We're gonna jump to spiritual
With all of
portals.
this said, can you speak to anything going on right now in regards to CERN? What's happening?
Now, of course, you can always go and check him out yourself, Tim Alberinos. I'm going to skip the spiritual portals because I'm not going to be on here for 2 hours because I tend to talk a little too much, and I'm going to respond to almost everything I disagree with or I really like. And there's a bunch of other topics that I would want to talk about. If you want to hear some more, let me know. But right now, we're going to do spiritual portals.
There, the research that's happening. I don't know whether it's experimentation or just stories, because it seems to be that there is a spiritual element that's attempting to insert itself into this process of transhumanism. How is all of this progressing right now?
And CERN is a quantum computer, is that correct?
I'll let him explain it better than me.
Particle accelerator. It's, there's a lot of stories around CERN. One of the most fascinating, as far as direct religious references, aside from the fact, if you look at their logo, it looks like 666 wrapped up into like one little entity. But there is a statue of Shiva, the Lord of Destruction, the destructive face of God in the Hindu mythos, in the courtyard at CERN as you go into the buildings. And whether they were serious or not, the scientists at CERN and some of the employees had a kind of either a mock or actual rite that they performed in black robes and maybe some torches and all of that. Now, were they being serious about it? Were they just messing around? I don't know that, but I do know that these guys...
When you take geniuses, people that's working for a place like CERN, and you hold a mock ritual, that's what that was, a mock ritual. No, it wasn't. I'm not expecting somebody to be dead or nothing like that. The concept is they were holding a ritual to something, whether they knew it or not. They were holding a ritual, and they knew they were.
Do tend to kind of materialize spiritual ideals. In essence, I think what we call transhumanism is a materialization, or it's a material attempt to realize spiritual aspirations. So just take mind-to-mind communication. This is documented throughout the ancient writing. This appears to be normal across human cultures, or normal in the sense that in extreme circumstances, thoughts pass from one mind to another, or two minds share the same thought source. What is Elon Musk's first program with Neuralink? Telepathy. And what is his goal? Of course, first healing, and then enhancement. And in the enhancement phase, he openly discusses this. It's not some sort of secret. What you would end up with is a sort of a hive mind. And human beings would then be able to rapidly communicate with each other and coordinate in ways that would make our ancestors hunting the large ungulates jealous. But so just to say, this material.
So what he's saying is basically we'll all be connected to the same source, and being able to communicate can go through a sort of telepathy type way through the system, where we can be in system. I'm connected to the same system. You got your chip in your head. I got my chip in my head. The thoughts can transfer through the chip, and it'll be like a telepathic type deal, where I'm literally sending you thoughts through my head.
Material inversion of spiritual aspiration also seems to be at least some of the impetus at CERN. One of the particle accelerator experiments is looking for the boson, the so-called God particle. And without going into the physics of it, which I'd probably mangle anyway, just the choice of the word God particle shows that there's a nod to this divinity. Now, are they opening up portals for demons at CERN? Probably no more than your television, but maybe bigger. Are they creating miniature black holes that are sinking into the core of the Earth to form a big black hole? And like one day you're going to like fall into not a land, what is a sinkhole thing?
Trying to make real concepts sound dumb. I don't remember anyone ever saying it like that. The concept was, if with you trying to recreate the initial birth of Earth, because that's what they announced that they was trying to do, you could create a literal black hole, because it takes that type of energy to create and to destroy. But let's turn it into a joke, like people don't know what they're talking about.
Thank you very much. My neighbor fell into a sinkhole, by the way, out in Tennessee, but the black hole had not expanded, and so she got out. But one day you fall into a sinkhole, and you're sucked and spaghettified into a singularity. I don't know. I mean, if I say that that's not going to happen, it'll happen tomorrow. But then we'll all be destroyed, and you won't be able to say that I was wrong. I think that CERN is really important symbolically. I mean, you're looking at the power of science to raise particles near the speed of light, showing, for instance, that the decay of certain particles does, in fact, slow down as you approach the speed of light, kind of giving evidence for Einstein's theory. More important technologically, from a spiritual dimension, I think, are the data centers. So, the sensationally named Stargate project, Trump's day 2 in office, technically first full day, he brings out Sam Altman of OpenAI, Larry Ellison of Oracle, and Masayoshi-san of SoftBank in Japan. And they all come out, and they're talking about the Stargate project. And this is a data center and infrastructure project that at the time they're trying to raise $50 billion to do. There are already facilities in Abilene, Texas, and around that area, and there are going to be more. They haven't raised as much money as they wanted, but it doesn't really matter. Somebody's going to. Investors pour some $500 billion in total into AI in the last couple of years. So it's not unheard of. And the Stargate project has multiple resonances. I think the people who named it must surely have been cognizant of that. The project itself is to create data centers that would be able to cure cancer.
I think this is a cat I stopped it on before. He literally talks around the subject, giving old political ass answers where you ain't responding to the question whatsoever, and you ain't saying jack other than giving educated answers that you keep on dispelling yourself. I done forgot what the question was again.
Heard Larry Ellison say, by way of immunization and mRNA therapy, tailored therapy, using AI to analyze the genome, using AI to rapidly produce CRISPR to rapidly produce mRNA to respond to cancer. Okay, if they could pull that off, great. If it's anything like YouTube, yeah, if it's anything like past experiments, maybe it won't turn out so hot. But more importantly, you have in the minds and hearts, the intention, whether it's going to be realized or not, the minds and hearts of Sam Altman and...
No, I'm not trying to say he don't know what he's talking about. He's one of those scientists that think so hard that he don't have answers for anything. Everything is a greater, bigger mystery now.
Larry Ellison and Masayoshi-san is this desire and this belief that they will create artificial superintelligence, the God in a box, that they will have a godlike entity that will give them tremendous advantages, geopolitical advantages over rivals, and not only
Build a website you love.
constant sniping with, say, Elon Musk and Sam Altman. So they're trying to build a God in a box with this Stargate project. Well, what are some other Stargate projects? Larry Ellison is known for his love of surveillance and his belief that mass surveillance will lead humans to behave in better ways. And what is a surveillance system if not remote viewing, but maybe a bit more reliable than the old school psychic version? But it's interesting that the Stargate project, there was Project Stargate in the 90s, run by the CIA to do remote viewing.
Remote viewing, yep.
And I can't imagine a world in which the people who are in charge of that didn't know that, and surely they realize that resonance between like this you're basically a human purported psychic ability is being replicated in a machine or in a digital form. And then you also have the Stargate conspiracy, or the movie Stargate is kind of emblematic of that. There's this whole deep literature about summoning, how the Babylonians and the Egyptians and so on and so forth had these stargates through which they summoned the gods. And what are they doing, or attempting to do, with the Stargate project, today's Stargate project, but to summon gods? They're in some sense building them, but there is very deeply woven into the...
He just mentioned the part I was talking about earlier when I say that by their own admission, they feel as though they're bringing in entities from other realms with this information. Because I think it was... it's not demon, it spells demon. D-Wave. He literally tells you that his computers, they're not putting in the information. Instead, our computers receive all the information and they make assessments and then give you reactions. He said these computers that he's building, they are not putting in the information. It's coming with its own information.
Tech culture in Silicon Valley and everything we would call transhumanism, whatnot, this idea that they're not just building it from the bottom up. There's certainly people who do think that way, but there's also a thread that believes that they are drawing down the possibilities of nature and crystallizing them into reality. It's like kind of an atheistic way of saying we are...
I can literally show you a clip of... I'll have to put it up. I should put it up right now. Of saying that you're thinking that you're going to summon this demon and you're going to keep it inside a box, and it's just not going to happen like that. It's sooner or later it's going to get out. It's not going to just listen to whatever you tell it. And that's literally what they believe that they're doing when they're creating these AI things. They believe that they're summoning and putting it inside a box and trying to control it.
Summoning angels, we are summoning demons, we are summoning gods.
Like building a mechanism of communication, almost like we're going to build it. If we build it, they will come, basically.
In essence. And I'm not going to speculate on the metaphysics of it. Can you actually, well, maybe I will, if you tempt me. But,
that's what we're here for.
What's really important about it, though, when we talk about techno-religion, or homo deus, or technology as religion, these people don't necessarily have a self-conscious sense that what they're doing is religious. Some do, many don't, but what they are doing is fundamentally religious. That despair you're talking about, the evolutionary or atheistic point of view, it's crushing. The big zero is the most depressing idea anyone could ever have, that everything that we're doing right now ends in
nothing.
Zero, in nothing. You may have the most amazing, you may be Alexander the Great, you may be Elon Musk, but in 200 years,
nothing.
Your consciousness will be zero. It will be as if you never existed. Maybe you take comfort in the continuation of your legacy. In a billion years, sun explodes, blah, 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 zero.
Nothing.
Let's say you've got probes going out into space that have your upload, and you're spreading it across the entire universe. Well, you still have, at least according to the kind of scientific models, either a dissolution into a flat, almost 0 Kelvin, everything turns to mush, as a Big Bang just... or you have the big crunch when everything becomes, again, a singularity, and you're back to zero. Nothing matters. In 100 years, in a billion years, the most depressing thing in the world. And so, people need some sense of meaning, the purpose you were talking about. And I think that there's always been this, if you look through 1600s, 1700s really, you start seeing the rise of this idea of progress, technological progress, and social progress.
Which is why I probably shouldn't have skipped that historical part. I caught most of the historic part, but they has some other parts. And I know that I'm missing a lot of information. I'm end up watching the whole thing myself, but I know I can't record all of this. I'm going to have to do 2 or 3 parts on it.
And there was an idea, even among atheists, that even if it all ends in zero, we can ignore that right now and improve our world. But in the back of any atheist mind, they know it all ends in zero. And so I think that Tim's
And that has
absolutely
to be
right.
depressing.
This desire to
depressing.
build God in place of a God that never existed is the only natural course of action if you hold that point of view. Or, on the other hand, if you think...
And that is the religion that Christ says, or the Bible tells us, is to come. They're going to build a God and everyone would have to worship it. And the concept of not having a God but yet building a God is, let's just say, human.
I think that perhaps there are hierarchies of beings far beyond the imagination of any mortal person, and that those hierarchies of beings ascending and descending are far more consequential, and we are always participating with them as spiritual beings ourselves, and the consequences of our lives endure into eternity. Then it highlights the insanity of trying to create this God in a box, to try to create this mythical or this digital superpowered entity, which is a pale imitation of the true spiritual beings. You know, it's oftentimes said that Satan is the ape of God, and you might say that AI is the ape of the image of God. AI is the imitation of the image of God in human beings, projected out into some kind of truly godlike form. But I'll end on this. I don't necessarily believe that these dreams will come to fruition in the ways that they're being put forward. I don't necessarily think that technology will actually achieve the totally mature state that they're envisioning. Something like it, some approximation of it, but I think it'll be as ridiculous in many instances as it is, amazing. That being said, though, if your entire culture, or if the most important and influential people in your culture are directed towards that, if they are...
That's actually good news, good hearing. First scientific educational type person that's actually into all that science stuff that I've actually heard say that he don't believe it'll work out.
Relieving themselves of the anxiety of the big zero by way of imagining a world in which they can live forever in a data center and somehow slow down time and perhaps even, with godlike power change the laws of physics. If that is the direction,
like I said, I'd rather just have the original,
of your culture
not some old
that is
half-ass
exactly the situation we find ourselves in now.
Wannabe of it.
It's very much like the Muslims, or very much like the communists, or any other culture where the goal, in the case of the Muslims, to convert everyone. Go to any Muslim country, they don't accomplish that, but they are still the ones in power, and it's a tremendous consequence. Communists want to, in theory, create a completely stateless, equalized society. That never happens. But when communists get in power, it is of tremendous consequence. And so now, for lack of a better word, we have an elite that are in thrall to transhumanist ideals. The wealthiest men on earth, most powerful governments on earth. The consequences of that, even if it's not the realization of some singularity, even if it's not the creation of a godlike, quasi-omniscient, quasi-omnipotent being, any approximation of that and just the direction of that in general, the decisions made from the top down will not benefit us. And I think that it has to be rejected outright. What they're talking about is a complete subversion of human dignity, a complete subversion of the human soul. And if you accept it, and you just simply say, oh, well, the rich have always been this way. Oh, well, these tools, they help some people and they hurt some people. It's always been that way. I feel like that kind of indifference, which is very, very common, will lull us into either something...
I don't think our acceptance have anything to do with it. I think that even if we didn't accept it, they would do it anyway. And now, us going along with them behind it, that's our acceptance. But I don't think that we can stop them from doing it, and them and having their children. We already know how deep of a religion it is, because they literally do the same concepts to their own children and put them through the same rigmarole that they went through, that they despise, just because. Good talk.
Something like the Terminator, which I think is the least likely, or something like the Matrix, which is a little bit more likely, but I think probably the most likely outcome of all of this, it'll be something like Idiocracy meets Repo Man. And you should always fear Idiocracy and Repo Man.
Wisdom.
Never saw Repo Man. Not to watch that.
How much time do we have?
I don't know. 15 minutes?
15?
Okay.
Okay.
What time does this session end? Because we can see the clock, but we can't see the timer. 5:10. We have till 5:10. There's the clock.
Okay, perfect. All right, question for both of you. And I expect these answers to be slightly different. So, can we start with you on this? There is a tension inside of me because biblically, when you look at prophecy, especially in times, a lot of bad things are bound to happen. So it's not like we can totally circumvent them all or fight them all. So I am sometimes wary of this. We have to stop it because it's going to happen. What is your take on how should we process where we are right now? Because if we is it just, hey, just don't use Anthropic, Claude is bad, try to get your friends off of ChatGPT. Like, what power do we have to stop it?
Well, we're living in a very unique time because there are two essential questions that we have to ask ourselves today that no other generation ever has had to contemplate. Number one, what does it mean to be a human being? Okay, now that question has been contemplated in the past, but not in association with the second question. And is our humanity worth preserving? Those are the questions that we're faced with right now. And this runaway AI, so far AI it's given us a lot of things, primarily my favorite, the Bigfoot vlogs. But guilty pleasure, right? But runaway AI is just the beginning. We're always all talking about AI because that's the thing that's in the news, and that's the thing that we are actually interacting with. Most of us are not interacting with technologies that can alter our genome, right? But those are coming. Those are coming. But those are coming. So there's a suite of technologies that are being developed, and AI is the one that gets all of the attention. But all of these technologies are converging, and this is why technologists sometimes refer to this as the hybrid age, because you have these various
AI gets all of the attention because it's the one who's doing all the mathematical equations that we can't pull off and doing them at a speed that will have us taking all forever and 3 days to even try and figure it out, to the point where we just say quit on it. AI is pulling it off in no time flat. Even though we come up with the ideas, we put it into the concept, they're the ones who solving the mathematical equations are making it possible.
Tracks of technology that are coalescing right now. And so they're hybridizing, they're coming together. And what's going to be the result of this hybridization of technology, this coalescing of all these different technological streams, including genetics, robotics, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and all the rest? The result is going to be the ability to modify wholesale human biology. That's going to be the culmination. We are going to be able to modify ourselves, mind, body, and soul. That's the culmination. So that's why we have to ask our question. When we're right on the cusp. We're like standing on the precipice, staring down into the void, and we have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be a human being? That's the essential question. And is our humanity worth preserving? Now, if you're coming from a biblical worldview, as I am, what does it mean to be a human being? Well, it means that we were intended to be part of the family. We were created in the image of God. There's nothing higher than that. You can't.
In the simplest way of saying it, I did a video on the woman who got the neural brain link chip, and now she can actually not communicate with computers because she ain't give it a good stuff yet, but she can literally get things done telepathically through telepathy on her computer, through her mind thinking it, and next thing you know, the computer does whatever it is that she's trying to get done. No other human can do that. You have to have some sort of special thing done to you to be able to do something like that. So is she considered still human, or is she human plus, or from that point on? Then once you start adding other things to it, how far along, like, let them finish talking, do we consider ourselves to be human?
You can't use the tools of technology to gain anything that even compares to that. We started at the pinnacle. Adam started in the family, communing with his maker, and I would contend with his elder siblings. And the way back into the family, the way back into this, the amaranthine bliss of the Father's house, is not by attempting to scale the wall and steal the fruit from the tree of life, but instead to enter through the door, through Christ. So, is our humanity worth preserving?
Only problem with that is you have to be Christian to understand and believe in that concept. That's what I believe. That's apparently what you believe, but most of your scientist buddies don't believe that whatsoever. So they're not going to see that in that manner whatsoever. They had that. That's why they're creating their own God, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Observing, well, from that perspective, absolutely, there's nothing more important than this, because we have a kinsman redeemer, right? So,
And them worrying about preserving humanity, they're not going to see it as preserving humanity. They're like I just said, is it human plus? They're going to think it as advancing humanity. We found out evolution is BS. So to keep that BS going, we realize that we have to advance ourselves. We have to evolutionize ourselves. We have to help ourselves get through the evolutionary stage. Again, BS, but that's what they believe.
that's, to me, that's where we are, and we've never been here before. I mean, the Genesis 6 thing was an extraordinary event, but this is different in the fact that we're all conscious. We're all participants in this transition. We are all slowly participating in the transition out of Adam and into some post-human condition. And so for me, what's the most important thing for me and for my family, and even in at the heart of what I do, what I try to do through my writings and interviews and what I'm doing here at this conference, is to encourage people to answer those questions, and to do so by rooting themselves in the gospel of Christ. Because that's the defense. To anchor yourself and understand what humanity is worth, right? And this, it breaks me up when I think about it. But think about what was paid for us. So the price of our redemption, and then to just cast our humanity aside, so that we can have what, life extension, Neuralink, and that's where we are. That's a moment we're in right now. It's amazing.
You know what? I think that's good enough for me to end it right there. I had a thought while he was talking, but it just went away from me. He kind of finished the way it's supposed to be. You like more? Come talk to me. See what else we got coming up next, or tell me what you want to hear about.